5 years down the road for all that stuff.
Well, we were mainly curious, I mean, the roof you can do when the inmates are there.
Sure.
But you have difficulty doing repairs on the jail when the inmates are there. And so if it has to be emptied for 3 months, what else would you recommend at that time? And we were talking about, we've had ongoing sewer problems and.
Well, we'd have to go through and we could check all the plumbing in each section, and maybe also looked at replacing the current fixtures that are in there. Some of them have issues. We have to get in there and get new flush valves and stuff like that back in the corners. Maybe replacing the piping that's there and be able to get it at least from that floor down to where we can get down it again. So while it was being tore apart, then yes, I would say we probably would be in your best interest to go ahead and catch all this little stuff with painting or caulking of the windows or even replacing the windows if we have to, you know, to make it a little more energy efficient and stuff like that.
Well, what about, and I just throw this out, I mean, if you're gonna invest that kind of money in this facility, I mean, you just.
You might as well get the whole thing started all over.
Or gut it or just tear it down.
It might be in your best, well, I'm not gonna say to tear it down or anything, but I'm just saying that. But it's not you spend.
I don't actually mind that.
Well, no, I'm just thinking, you know, we did, when we did some, we did a little bit of renovation there, we put, some of Lonnie's staff
Up
on the third floor.
Civil and records, the civil and records division
Yeah.
moved over.
It's obviously less than ideal, but, I mean, it would be an opportunity, I suppose, to start fresh, although we still, as Janelle pointed out earlier, we don't have money to build anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you could farm people out and you could try to save a little bit of money perhaps, but we still don't have enough money to.
But it might be one of them deals, somebody's gonna have to go in there and, okay, let's say we got 5 or 6, 7 million for the repairs that we should do. What's it gonna cost to go in there and just shell the whole thing and have somebody design something and make it more modern? So it's safer for his people and anybody else up there. I mean, you might be looking at something that just might be another, you know, 50% more or 25% more to do it right and get it done.
The only thing I would say there, though, is the jail inspector has already answered our questions there. I mean, he's already told us he's allowed the double bunking, but when we do a major remodel, that doesn't happen anymore. So you're actually gonna have using space.
I understand where you're coming
And
from.
he's also said that we don't have room for library, we don't have exercise space, we don't have sufficient laundry space, we don't have adequate dining space.
Yep.
So you're talking, where are you gonna get the space if you go in and try to do a full remodel?
I'm just saying, somebody could come in there and design, maybe it's different. I'm just throwing this out.
I think you're absolutely right, Pat, it's just that, well, we're throwing out
Yeah.
things, it's one of the things that you throw out.
You're looking for alternatives and you're looking for issues. I mean, if you spend X amount of dollars to fix something, what's the difference if I went out and bought brand new? You know, and in the long
Did the
run.
jail inspector, I mean, you're predating me, the jail inspector said if you do major renovations,
Well, it's
you would have to go back to 46 beds.
The square footage, whatever that rate is, which.
There's a square footage per room or cell room, and he doesn't really commit solidly on what he would do, but it has been said that if you do a major remodeling, then you have to follow the current guidelines. So we would lose some capacity because we're under what those guidelines are now. And there's no way he's gonna let us completely start over and then come back and use the same guidelines that we're following right now. We would have to adopt to the new guidelines.
We're kind of grandfathered in on the forties because of the age of the jail, but
Right.
it's double bunked.
Which at some point in time, I mean, they could change, the state could change their position on that too. We're hoping not, but they could.
So, that's the jail, courthouse.
Courthouse also had a boiler.
I was gonna ask about the boiler.
We're gonna have to replace, we got a bid for the boilers. We're gonna have to replace those no matter what.
One of them's bad, but they all go
One
soon
goes,
thereafter.
you can see the other ones that go, because they all sequence on, so they all maintain the same amount of hours on them, they all sequence it one's, that brand is famous for, once one goes, you're gonna look at the other one too.
What's that?
The other one will go too.
Sure, the estimates.
Yeah.
There are
Yes,
three of
it's
them.
like 59,000 to replace, and it's and if we do it soon, we'll get a rebate on it too, otherwise we'll lose
Okay.
it.
59,000 each or all?
All of it.
I guess while we're done somehow, I'd like to throw out one more thing.
Sure.
And that is, when I was looking at some of the jail stuff, and I'm gonna have to maybe ask Lonnie about this, maybe he knows a little bit more about it. But, I saw there are a few places in Florida and throughout the country that actually have taken and their jail and essentially the whole operations, internal operations. And, I mean, you essentially have sheriffs, but you drop the prisoners off there and everything else is just privately run.
Yeah, the Code of Iowa says that the sheriff will and shall be responsible for taking care of the inmates. And then it also says that the board of supervisors shall fund that.
Now, it just was.
So it prohibits outsourcing?
It prohibits privatization.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah, I looked at that privatization as well, and it seems to work in some communities, other communities it's created huge problems where things happen within the facilities that should never happen.
All I noticed when I was looking at some of the reviews of prisoners in Florida, actually really seemed to like it, because they had a library, they had an on-site doctor, they had on the roof is where they had their exercise equipment, so I was just looking at that, I was like, that's a really neat idea, but I didn't really never been able to talk to Lonnie about that.
All right, Eldon, anything, I mean, tuck pointed,
Mhm.
the roof at the courthouse is okay. We obviously have ongoing trouble, we had some moisture trouble earlier, we've stabilized that.
Yep.
So, boilers, about 59,000.
Yep.
Actually, I asked,
Sure.
there was moisture coming in last week through the jail, and the waste taken.
Okay.
Nobody told you?
No. I mean, we've had the roofing people out there, I think it's been on a weekly basis. They've been out there trying to locate where this is at. And it has something to do with right where the slate shingles ties into the limestone. And it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. That's basically what we're doing. So, yeah, the plasters were there the other day, plastered in one of the judge's office, but there's another one on after that.
So,
Well, yeah, as
security.
long as you're talking about that, I mean,
Okay.
I've talked to a couple of the judges recently, and that room downstairs, the lower courtroom, they still are complaining about the smell that gets in there.
Okay.
That's making them ill. Dampness around some of those towers where the leak is, it's the same thing, and we're having medical issues with that. Now, we did have that tested and at one point here a couple of years ago, and we were told that they could find nothing that was damaging to the individual's breathing and so forth. But technically, there is no real measurement to tell for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll check into it.
So, security, Americans with Disability Act, county attorney space, courtroom space, storage space. What other options do we have? I mean,
Storage wise, you have little or nothing. I mean, we have increased the size out at secondary roads, but we're having issues with that. So,
and his email also said they didn't like going that far away for records.
I don't know where else you're gonna put it, like, there else is full. The building behind the courthouse is running over, even the place down the street that the sheriff puts in, boats and stuff like that for storage is full. That is the only place you have right now, it's secondary roads with the amount of shelves that open up for everybody to use.
While we're at it, I'd throw in, we need some additional evidence room down in that south building. We haven't had a chance to see last.
This is the time to start putting.
Well, I know, I mean, we have that south building where we have a lot of equipment, but the evidence, there's a specific specific evidence area that's locked that nobody, not even me, has access to, only the evidence technicians, and that is full. And so what we have talked about doing is finding a way to expand that to allow us to have more space down there, but
You weren't here last week because it had nothing to do with you, but we talked about the fire damage. And I think it was Terrence who brought up the fact that building out at secondary roads, perhaps we should think long-term, not build it right now, but where would the next set of that building go? And one of the examples he used was some of your equipment, and whether or not it can be moved to secondary roads.
we want the equipment in close proximity to
And that's what
our office.
Pat started
For
saying.
response purposes.
Right.
Well, I guess we get into space issues if you want, but I don't necessarily envision the county having that, so what would you? And the question is, would we put all of our storage out at secondary roads? I think there was some argument about the boats. Where's the best location for the boats, that kind of thing. If it was that secondary roads or check, or if it was downtown. Depends, I guess, on.
We own the building free and clear.
No,
And we need the
oh.
emergency response equipment
Right.
in close proximity because oftentimes it's the jail staff or command staff that
Let me
goes.
rephrase. The conversation really came about because we were looking at the future vision of the downtown district down here. It doesn't have any of those buildings. And so as we look at space needs over the next 20 to 30 years, the conversation just was, in the next whatever, if we're going to have identified space needs, one of them was, if that building wasn't there, what would we go? So that's where that conversation came from.
So your immediate need,
We need some,
you don't want kicked out of that building, I get that, but in that building, you need more
kicking and
evidence.
screaming,
space.
but we need some additional evidence room, secure space inside there. We just need to expand that. It's all inside there. So, but
But
Eldon's been
the
busy.
square footage you have, we can get you more evidence, we can take care of that
Right.
just by building more walls.
Yeah, we just need to
Okay.
expand what we have inside there.
Can you get to that this weekend?
Yeah, no problem. It's on my plate.